Hey there, fictional friends, and welcome to another episode of Fully Booked. I'm Megan.
And I'm Shireen.
And it is coverage of season 2 of Bridgerton week.
Dearest, gentle reader, did you miss me?
There you go. That sounded really good.
See? You need multiple.
Multiple syllables. Of our sort of, we're continuing with historical fiction, obviously, and I'm like 90% sure that at the time that this episode's coming out, the first part of season 3 will have dropped. At this point, because it's dropping May 16th. But surprise, surprise, we pre-record our episodes. And so at the time that we're recording this, we have not seen season 3. So if I say something, or if one of us has a theory about something that we're going to see, or
we're going to be sharing our theories.
Yeah, that's it. And we're wrong, well, obviously.
So that'll actually be fun to read for y'all to be listening to.
I think it's going to be really funny for us to listen to after we actually watch part 1.
We'll be like, ooh, we got that right. Ooh, we got that so wrong.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So, okay. Hopping into season 2, the focus of this season is Anthony Bridgerton, who's the oldest boy, who is the Viscount, who decided at the end of the first season that he was going to find a wife, not love.
Yeah, just a wife.
But a wife.
Yeah.
So that he could fulfill his duty, continue the Bridgerton line, and do what he was supposed to do, which was get married and have kids.
Yeah, and something we didn't actually talk about, and we forgot to talk about on our season 1 episode, was Anthony's relationship with the opera singer.
Oh, Sienna. Oh, shit.
Sienna.
God, you're right. I'm sorry. There's too much to talk about.
There was. And also we had to kind of set the stage of what this was all about.
Yeah.
So we have a bit more time now. But just going back to that relationship, I found that really sad, and I really felt sad for Anthony.
I also really liked Sienna as a character. I really liked.
She was very strong.
I really liked her motivations.
She made money,
I really liked her motivations for everything when she makes her decision at the end to be like, we can't do this because I will never be what you expect that I'm going to be.
And I think that that's what sets the stage for him in this season to be like, fine, I'll get married, but I'm not going to look for a love match because I had love. I couldn't love her because she wasn't, part of my duties or whatever. She didn't fit my societal duties.
I think that it's a combination.
And I think he's mad about it.
Yeah, and I think that it's a combination of his failed relationship with Sienna combined with what I believe is him protecting his own heart because he saw what his mother experienced after his father died.
Yep.
And how much she went through before she was able to kind of pick herself up again. And he was like, I would never like to experience that.
Well,
and
he said he doesn't, because they show this a little bit later in the season, the whole situation of what happened with his father. He was the one who was there when his father got stung by the bee. He didn't know what to do. His mom came out. She was pregnant and he died instantly. And his mother just could not get out of bed. She had the baby right away. Yeah. The whole thing
which was also,
her.
She had a really bad birth as well because it was Hyacinth, I believe. I think it was a breech birth. Yeah.
And then, immediately he's now the Viscount. He's being asked what to do. Do we save the baby or your mother?
And then also with the other everything else in the house as well. Do we move your father's body out of the room? Yeah. Do we do this? Do we do that?
We need to move your stuff.
And I think that Anthony was meant to have been maybe 17 or 18.
Yeah,
he was quite
very
young.
Yeah.
Because this was 8 years prior.
Well, so they say in this season that Kate is 26.
Yes.
And she's younger than Anthony.
Oh, good point. Okay, so maybe he was supposed to be 20 or 21 maybe. And because I think he's meant to be 28 or 29.
Yeah, so he was very young to have all of this thrust upon him right away.
And also his father wasn't very old, so I don't think he would have been expecting to do this for another
20
several
years.
decades.
Yeah. And so, I think he saw how upset his mom was and how she couldn't even get out of bed barely, and he said, I don't want to be the reason to cause that amount of pain for somebody, so I don't want to have a love match.
Yeah, that's it. I don't want that. I just want somebody who I have companionship with, who I'm comfortable with, and we have an arrangement.
Just talking about somebody who's good for breeding with and who will carry on the name.
Yeah, and who's also intelligent enough and everything because
to have a conversation with.
Yeah, that's it, because he does go through a montage of dates at the beginning of the season. And
it's pretty funny.
Yeah, that is pretty funny. And it's true that some of them are just there's one girl where he's just there and he's like, okay, but what about reading? And she's like, books? She has no idea. And he's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
And he keeps like dancing with different ones, and they all step on his feet and stuff. And he's like, oh, aren't you ladies supposed to learn how to dance?
Yeah, and it's very funny. So basically, Antony is like a crotchety old man, even though he's not 30 yet. And he's decided that's it. He's like, basically for him, the easiest thing is I will keep my heart out of it this time. And I will find the most suitable candidate for the position.
He says, I'll marry whoever the queen deems the diamond
of the season.
But it's really funny because in the first episode, like Eloise, or I don't know if it's the first episode, but at the beginning of the season, Eloise is like out in society and there's like the first ball or whatever.
And they have to go be presented to the queen. They have to go do the thing.
But like at the ball, something's happening, and Violet just very loudly goes, well, since Antony has decided to take a bride,
the Viscount has decided to take a wife, and all the moms
they all
are
just
like,
go rumph, like, okay. And he's just like, you actually just did that? She's like, I believe I did.
And she basically like leaves him to deal with it, and he's like,
yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah.
All the mamas.
Yeah. So if you wanted an enemies to lovers arc that you didn't get in season 1, you better believe you get in season 2.
Oh, it's wonderful. I love it.
It's very funny. So the second season introduces us to the Sharma family. So Kate, who's the oldest sister, her younger sister Edwina, and their mother Mary. They have just come back to England from India, and
they're staying with Lady Danbury.
And they're staying with Lady Danbury. She's sponsoring them for the season, and so Mary was from a wealthy family in England. Sheffield, yes, exactly. The Sheffield family. And she had been in an arranged marriage, basically, or was about to be married, but she absconded because she fell in love with a clerk, essentially. Yeah. So somebody way, way, way below her station societally. She fell in love, and they left together and moved to India. He was a widower at that time.
He already had Kate.
First marriage. So Mary is her stepmother. And they moved away together to India, lived there for a number of years, had Edwina, obviously.
Yeah.
And now the three of them have come back to England for the season, and they're being sponsored by Lady Danbury. And the idea is that Kate, of course, she's 26, but she would be considered an old maid, quote unquote. Yeah. And but so the point is to find Edwina a husband.
Yeah, because Kate's been since their father died, Mary, their mother, has been like kind of completely, grief stricken. And so Kate has been taking care of all their affairs. And it came about that while I think she may have been writing to the Sheffield.
I believe so.
And they basically said that there was a stipulation for Edwina to inherit her money, because Kate would not be inheriting anything.
She's not their grandchild.
Yeah. But they said that Edwina would be eligible to inherit her fortunes.
Yeah.
If she married a gentleman of British
an Englishman
society.
of nobility specifically is what they're looking for.
And so that was what triggered them going over. The understanding is that Mary and Edwina have no idea about this underlying plot.
Kate she always wants to take care of everybody and make sure that everyone's okay. And so she kind of took all of this responsibility onto herself without, I think, understanding that she really should have been sharing the information and should have been having a conversation with her mom and her sister.
Like, opinion on things.
Yeah, and I know it's probably because she also knew, like, her mother has a terribly strained relationship with her parents, and so she wouldn't have wanted to go back. And I do understand that, but at the same time, like, I think it would have been important for them to be aware of what was going on and aware of the fact that the Sheffields were enforcing this particular thing. So they've come back to England because I believe Lady Danbury knew Mary when she was originally...
They were friends, I believe.
Yeah, they were friendly at the very least.
And there's like some friction with the Queen because I think she left very suddenly and she didn't say goodbye to the Queen, and the Queen is like...
And the Queen's a little bit like, ugh.
Yeah.
And whatever, she like gets over it. But she just have like a little thing, and Mary's like, fuck.
Like, I done fucked up.
Yeah, that's it. So basically, since... their father passed away, Mary and particularly Kate have been pretty much spending every waking moment teaching Edwina how to be the perfect, ideal wife.
Yeah.
Basically.
For British high society.
Yes, like the kind of wife that any man would want.
Yeah.
Like in the sense of she's very well versed with regards to music, singing, dancing, languages. She reads a ton. all those sorts of things. But Edwina's character is fun because she's such a contrast to Kate, because she's, unfortunately, due to her circumstances, she's been kept very sheltered, which has really added quite a level of like naivete to her character.
But she's not intelligent.
She's not stupid.
Not looking for answers. It's just nobody will give her answers.
No, that's it. And she's kind of, I think, come to accept that this is just sort of the way of things. And so she's like, okay, well, I'm just going to be the best that I can be, and I'll find a husband because that's what my mom and my sister want, and so that's what I'm going to do. So in doing that, yeah, she has kind of become like the ideal type of bride, which is why the queen, not too long after they arrive, the queen names her the diamond of the season.
And so Antony is like, well, that's who I'll marry.
So he sets his sights. However, Antony has already met Kate, and he just didn't know who she was. So she likes to go horseback riding quite a bit, and I think she did a lot of it in India. So she's out riding early outside of Lady Danbury, like off of Lady Danbury's property one morning, and they run into one another when they're both out riding, and they have banter. They've got good banter, and it's very flirty, and there's an attraction immediately.
Oh yeah, they have great chemistry.
Oof. But you know, she's there and she's like, yeah, whatever. She's just accepted that she's never going to get married. She's never going to have anything. So
she's going to
like,
be a governess.
Yeah. So she's like, yeah, whatever. I'm just here to do this, and I'm going to ignore this attraction that I have. So when Edwina is named the diamond, Antony sets his sights on her because he's like, okay, that's it. That's the right one. I'm just going to pick this one.
She's the best one.
So in speaking with her, he's then introduced and realized that this woman that he had a very hefty attraction to the moment that he saw her is this girl's older sister, who has recently heard him speaking to other men about the fact that he doesn't give a shit about love and simply wants to find the most appropriate wife to be Viscountess.
To breed with,
basically. That's it. And she's incredibly insulted by that and thinks that he's ridiculous. And she also knows that Edwina really wants a love match. Like, she would like to be in love with her husband.
She feels that she deserves one, too, because she adores her sister.
Yes, exactly. That's it. Yeah, they have... they call each other Bon and Didi, which are, I believe, the Hindi words for big sister and little sister.
That's so cute.
So that's where the little nicknames that they have for each other come from. So this kicks off a ridiculous enemies to lovers are. It's the amount of animosity.
Oh my god, it's crazy.
In the early episodes, you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah, and like poor Edwina has no idea because again, it's that level of naivety.
Yeah, she does. Because if she stopped for a good few minutes and really took a look at it, she would know what was going on.
Lady Danbury, Violet notices, and even the Queen. Like they're kind of
Queen
like,
is also like, what
is going on between these two? But like Edwina is just this really good-natured person, and so she's like starts to try and come up with plots to get these two like closer together to get them
to like each other and get along. But you're like, yeah, the problem is that they like each other a little too much.
And like Daphne's sitting there, and okay, this is where Daphne is like amazing.
I think I almost preferred Phoebe Dynevor's character in this season, not because I didn't like her in the first season. I did, but what I really loved is the progression of character, and like, you know, that's it, that she's experienced her own trials with regards to like her love story, so it's really given her an additional sense of wisdom to a degree.
And what's really interesting is seeing the two different sisters interacting with the Bridgerton family, because Kate has no skin in the game in that she doesn't care what they think of her because she doesn't want to marry Antony. And she also, like, Edwina is like infatuated with him, and she's like, well, fine if that's what you really want, but he's a shithead, you know. And Edwina's like on her best behavior. She's super polite.
She's doing everything that she's always been told.
Right.
And you can see in certain scenes how performative it is.
Oh, very much so. And like the Bridgertons recognize this,
they do.
And like they very much prefer Kate because they're all kind of a little wacky and zany.
Daphne likes Kate immediately. Eloise likes Kate immediately.
Because like she just calls Antony out on his shit.
On his bullshit.
And like she's also very much like, Eloise likes her because she's very much like, women don't have to get married.
No,
like,
it's fine.
They can live their lives and do what they want.
Yeah, like, you know she's also strong and outspoken and everything. And so of course Eloise gravitates towards that because she can spot an intelligent woman near her, so she's like, oh great, okay, great, love that.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's not really anything that takes away, like, it's not to take away anything from Edwina. It's just you can tell that the fit isn't there. And Edwina will speak about how she would like to be with someone even tempered and kind and gentle and stuff. Daphne's like,
Anthony, really?
have you met that crotchety old man? Damn.
He's not even tempered.
He's miserable half the time. Yeah, that's it. And so, but again, that level of naivete, she doesn't see it. Like, she doesn't see how different their personalities are. And he accepts and wants her because he's decided that this is the kind of level of subservient ease that he wants, where really... And Daphne points this out a couple of times, and Violet totally agrees with her, that she's like, I always thought that Antony would be with someone who challenges him more.
Yeah, because he needs it because he's so crotchety.
He's such a miserable pain in the ass half the time that he needs someone to call him out on that bullshit and be like, can you stop?
Can you please stop and, like, just, smile a little bit?
Yeah, that's it. Like, just, like, see the positive in things a little bit. So
exactly.
it makes a really big difference. The sort of, like, differentiating kind of personalities. And that's it. You know that, like, yeah, maybe it would be okay, but Edwina would never challenge him in any way, shape, or form.
No, and he's so polite with her. And, she does say, like, that he's even tempered and he's kind. Yeah. And I just think that,
and everyone's like, huh?
But I think that because that's who Edwina is and he feels like that's who he should be
with. 100%.
He, like, forces himself to be that person. But his family realize that, like, he's, like, really trying a little too hard with this thing,
Yeah, that's it. They're there, like, and his, it's something that there's a lot of really great scenes in the second season between Antony and Violet.
Yeah.
Because, yes, we're given all of the flashbacks to what happened when his father died and how much difficulty she had, dealing with that afterward. Not in a negative way. That's totally understandable. This man was, like, the love of her life.
Yeah.
So I get it. I would probably be the exact same way, and I don't know how I would manage it with 8 children on top of that.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to think about that. So I can only imagine how horrible that would be. But, it's really nice to have gotten those flashbacks, but then it's really nice to see them now where she, they experience times where she, first of all, keeps telling him and reminding him, like, you should be looking for love. Like, you should be open to the possibility of actually finding love and not just looking for a wife to have one. And then that's it, Yeah.
But he really doesn't want to listen to this because he's also extremely stubborn.
And he's closed himself off to the idea that would be a good idea. That's
Absolutely.
It.
And there's this whole scene where, like, he's having a whole fight with Kate about something and a bee lands on her and he just freaks out because he, like, that whole scene, every time I watch it, I'm like, oh my God.
Can I give you a funny book moment from this? Okay, in the book. Again, this is another one. In the first book, you have the thing in the garden where, like I said, there are, like, titties are involved at some point. In this one, the bee lands on her and it stings her basically in the same spot, like sort of up high on her chest.
Yeah.
In the book, he doesn't just, like, freak out and she has to calm him down. She does try to calm him down, but before she can do that, he sticks his mouth on and sucks the stinger out.
Wow.
So basically just gives her a hickey there.
Wow.
I know. I read it and I was like, oh my God, okay.
Okay, no. The scene was really well done in the show.
He has, like, essentially a panic attack because he thinks that something's about to happen to her.
Yeah, he thinks she's about to die.
Of course.
And, like, you don't panic that way about somebody that you're not in love with.
No. Also, first of all, no. I mean, like, yes, okay, it would trigger a trauma response no matter who it happened to because of the circumstances. But honestly, like, no, like, it was because it happened to her that he was like, holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, so he does.
Her.
Yeah, so they have, and there are so many moments throughout the season where they're basically arguing and then they stop and you're like, oh God, these two are about to fuck. Like,
so many times. They do such a good job.
Yeah, where moments get a little bit like, whoop.
Yeah.
So anyway, this leads to an engagement with Edwina that should never have happened in the first place.
Again, he's, like, forcing it. He's lying to himself. And then at this point, like, they're in so deep because Edwina's, like, told herself that she's in love with this guy.
Yeah.
Kate loves Edwina more than anything in the world.
And she's told herself that this has to be okay and this wedding has to go ahead, even though both of them are miserable about it.
So she tells him, like, whatever, our feelings will fade, like, just marry Edwina.
And I'm going back to India after you get married, So he
proposes to Edwina, like, this whole engagement ensues, and, like, everyone is watching this going, what the fuck is going on?
Daphne, Violet, they're like, oh man.
Like Lady Danbury, they're
Lady
like,
Danbury,
why?
they're all like, what is going on? Well, because Lady Danbury, like, is able to get Kate to confide in her, first of all, about what's happened with the Sheffields and the plan to be able to actually get the inheritance for Edwina and her mother. And she's also able to kind of see through some of the things and realize, like, okay, it's pretty clear that you have some sort of feeling for him, more than what you're talking about anyway.
More than anger. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not just anger. It's anger because it's something else is basically what it is. Yeah. So there's all kinds of like denial that happens, which leads to a forced almost wedding ceremony, where poor Edwina, at the altar finally realizes, just based on looks that are shared between the two of them, what's actually going on.
Honestly, like this season, so last season was very different in the way that it played out, because it was kind of like, will they, won't they? And then you're like, okay, like obviously
they will
get married.
And then you have, you have the issues that happen after the marriage has already occurred.
But this season, I'm like, holy shit, is he actually going to marry Edwina?
I know.
And like they get that close.
It came very close. And I will say this season, in that way, this greatly differentiates from the novel.
Oh, does it?
Very much in terms of like the plot, So in the, again, book spoilers, sorry. So in the book, what happens, which is what the Viscount Who Loved Me is the second book in the series. So in the book, Antony is courting Edwina for a period of time. But then, he and Kate kind of, really get into it in terms of like their feelings for each other. And they actually, especially like Kate, she actually tells Edwina, who is a lot more happy-go-lucky and not super infatuated with him, so she's actually fine with it.
She's like, whatever.
She's like, yeah, she's kind of got a thing going with someone else.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, yeah, okay. She's like, no, it makes total sense, you guys. It's like pretty clear to see that you two really do want to be together. So Kate and Antony get married.
Yeah.
And then he's still doing the whole like, but I'm definitely not in love with her. I'm definitely not in love with her.
Annoying.
I'm definitely not in love with her. So they have to do like all of that back and forth shit. So I will say that like this is a much more modern, and I think anyway, like better take on, let's say, like full enemies to lovers. Like we're waiting until the 11th hour to give you an answer about this, guys.
Yeah, and Edwina like runs away. Like they have to pause the wedding, and like the whole thing also is that like, remember, you've got Lady Whistledown like teasing the queen, and so the queen selected this diamond for the season. She's throwing this wedding for them.
Oh yeah.
And now Edwina has run off, and so the queen is
And so this is what, because the queen is basically saying to Lady Danbury, she's like, you need to fix this.
Yeah,
you need to fix this.
You must fix this.
I'm not dealing with this. You need to fix this. And Lady Danbury's like, she's like, hey, for the first time in my life, I have no fucking plan.
She's like, I don't know what to do. And like, there's this really hilarious moment where all the Bridgertons are like in a room, like trying to like wait it out and see what Edwina does. And they're like, oh my God, like what could have happened? And of course, Eloise is in the corner and she's like, maybe she realized she doesn't want to be married.
Maybe she simply changed her. She's like, are we really making such a big deal out of this because a woman simply changed her mind?
And Benedict is like, do you always have to be so you? I'm like, I love these.
There's a lot of really great sibling banter. I think also because you can tell like the cast spends a lot of time together. So you can see like it developing over time almost, that they're all getting really comfortable with each other, which creates a good level of banter that occurs between the characters, which is really good.
So she doesn't marry him.
No, so they, thank God. They don't get married, which is good. And it's good that Edwina was, I know it broke her little heart, but it was good that she was able to sort of get a better understanding of everything before she said yes.
There's also this really great moment, like before she tells Anthony and Kate that she's not going to marry him, where she is in the room with her mother and Violet and Lady Danbury and the Queen, and the king comes in because there's been fireworks and stuff that have gone off, and he's like, did you see
he's
the fireworks?
in a bit of a stupor.
He's in a bit of a stupor.
Yeah.
He thinks that it's his own wedding.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
He's worried that he's late for his wedding.
His little things where he's there and he's like, where's my bride? And then he sees her and he's like, isn't she magnificent? I'm sorry I kept you waiting, Lottie. And I'm like, oh, God, I'm going to cry.
I'm going to cry, especially after you've seen the Queen Charlotte.
Yeah, oh, my God.
And you're like, oh. But like Edwina is so sweet with him, and like the queen obviously like really
So
appreciates.
is there, and she's like, do whatever the fuck you want to do.
You do what you want to do, girl. Like,
That's basically, she, helped her out, because this is like almost like it could have been a national embarrassment, basically,
definitely.
to have people, and then also like that also could be really dangerous for people to be fully aware of the fact that the king is not in his right mind, because
they allude to that a few times.
Yeah, because that could mean enemies coming in. That could mean all kinds of things. That could lead to wars, potentially. So, because if there's, a problem at the top, that could create a lot of problems. So
I love that in Queen Charlotte, by the way. Like, every time his mother is in a room and they're questioning the king, she's like, he is perfect. He is the king. He is perfect. He is the king. Like, it's the only answer that she'll give.
It's the only answer that she's annoying. God, she's annoying.
She does a good job.
Yeah, she does. So because of that, no, the wedding doesn't go ahead. And then, of course, there's a bit of a scandal because of the bride ran away at the altar. Awkward. So there's a lot of picking up of the pieces and
trying to show like friendliness between the families.
Yes, that's
well,
it.
to try and salvage both reputations.
But no matter what, like these two are like fully in love with each other at this point. So it does lead to a confrontation between the two of them, which turns from a fight into something a whole lot more fun. Well,
in the garden.
Why is there so much garden shit going on the show?
The garden is the most scandalous place
The garden is a really sexy place to be, apparently. So they do have sex in the garden after kind of an argument, because they can't really deny the feelings that they're having for one another at this point. And he wakes up in the morning and she's left, and she's gone back to her room in a fucking panic and goes out riding. He follows her, but she's out and it's very rainy, and she's going a little crazy with the horse, and the horse gets spooked by like a wall that it comes up against, basically. So
she falls.
She gets knocked off the horse and hits her head quite badly. He rescues her and takes her back to the house, and she's unconscious for 3 days or something
like that.
A while. Yeah. This actually, there's a really nice moment here. So when she does actually like wake up, and he's not been able, because he's so like, there's a lot going on in his head about this. So because of that, and he has like such strong emotions about it, which again, he's not very good at vocalizing. So he hasn't gone back to see her at all since he brought her back to the house. And there's this really good scene when his mom comes to tell him that she woke up.
Yeah.
Like, she's awake when she comes in. He's like, and he realizes just by looking at her face. Yeah. And he's like, she's awake. And she's like, yes, they heard it from one of the maids. And he like immediately starts crying. And you're like, oh boy.
Poor guy.
Yeah. And this is a nice scene with his mother where she's able to apologize to him for basically shutting down the way that she did after their father died and leaving so much on his shoulders and being so unhappy. Even though like depression doesn't really work that way. You can't just like get up and ignore it. So it's understandable. But, but again, obviously she's their mother, and she, feels like she should have, she feels guilt, and she feels like she shouldn't have put so much on him, which is understandable.
I mean, it was like a lot for him.
It was a lot. But she does, remind him that actual real love is worth dealing with the heartache and everything, where she basically says like, if I knew everything that was going to happen, like, if I could have changed something, I would, but even if I knew everything was going to happen and I could have done nothing, I would still do the entire thing over again, including the pain, just for us to have experienced the same things that we've experienced, pretty much.
Yep.
So he
gallantly goes running over.
his love to Kate, asks her to marry him, but Madame is still in denial land over here.
Yeah, she's like, no, I'm going back to India. Thanks, bye.
And she's also these two expressing they're basically the same person.
It's like all the way to the 11th hour. You're like, oh my God, are they not going to get together?
These are just two people who are too similar. Yeah. They're both the caretakers of their family. They're both trying to take care of everybody, and they're both shouldering all of the responsibility without being honest enough to communicate about it and express like any like feelings of being overwhelmed.
Yeah,
they can't do it. No, I will take care of everything. I have to take care of everything. And you're like, no, you don't. Anyway, yeah, seriously. So there is a final ball that occurs And the two of them dance, and then they go off together to talk, and then there's finally a love confession that occurs, and she agrees to marry him, obviously. So they get there. Luckily, they get there happily ever after, which is very nice.
And it's very nice because in like one of the final scenes, like the queen is standing next to Edwina, and she's like, "Have I told you about my nephew? He's a prince, and he's available." And Edwina's like, "Ooh!"
And then all the I know we didn't mention in the first season. There's too many characters, guys. We didn't really mention it in the first season, but there's this girl and her mom, Cressida Cowper, and her mother, who's like another like debutante or whatever, who's there. She's just a miserable. Her mom's horrible, and so she's just like a miserable human being. I'm so incredibly happy that now there have been 2 seasons. We're going into a 3rd season, and Cressida Cowper is still not married, bitch.
Because she's awful.
Yeah, and she's the one who's being like, like, oh, Penn is like the dowdy, like ugly one, basically.
So mean.
She's like, and like being mean to her, and I'm like, bitch, you've been out for the same number of seasons as she has, and you also can't find one.
Well, this is it, and she almost marries this prince.
She almost married the prince in the first season, but he wasn't really interested.
He wasn't really into her. He was more interested in Daphne, who turns him down for the Duke. And now I'm really hoping he ends up with Edwina.
It would be cute. I don't need him to be there, but I just need there to be a mention on camera that she's a princess now. And that would be great.
That. She would totally deserve that.
That would be really fun. I would love that. We'll see what happens on next season. Okay, other big
character development.
Other big character developments in this season. Penelope is being basically fully found out. So she's expanding her operation a little bit, and she starts working with Madame Delacroix, who is the modiste. She's like the seamstress, basically, like the fashion designer, pretty much.
She makes all their gowns.
Yeah, she's not French. She's British, but she uses a French accent because, of course, France was and still is like kind of the height of fashion, like the fashion capital of the world, basically. So I think she feels that she's taken more seriously if she's French. So that's what she uses as like a little cover for herself, which is fine. She accidentally discovers that Penelope is Lady Whistledown. Oops. And they decide to start working together for
because
mutual benefit.
Penelope is not able to bring her things to print because she knows that she's going to get recognized by more people,
Yeah, exactly. So they start working together for mutual benefit, and they form a little bit of a friendship, which is nice, like a working friendship, which is actually kind of nice to see as like someone who's of higher society with like a working class person, which is cute.
Also, Eloise is getting very close to discovering who Lady Whistledown is because she's figured out which print shop she uses. And so she starts going to this print shop where she meets this lovely boy.
Man, he's a cutie patootie.
He is so cute.
Isn't he adorable?
He's adorable, and they both love books.
Yeah.
And she feels like she can finally kind of be herself.
And they're both very strong-willed as well. They're both very opinionated.
They're always like bickering and stuff. And so this is more of like a love story between Eloise and this Theo, but Penelope is like paranoid that Eloise is going to figure out that it's her, and so she just starts trying to deter her from like speaking to him, going to this print shop, which to like the point where she's almost quite mean, kind of.
Yeah, and which to a degree it's weird because if you take away, let's pretend for a minute that we didn't know that Penelope was Lady Whistledown. Let's say they hadn't have told us that in the first season, for instance. In the books, you don't find out until Penelope's book.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right. So, so that's like what, book 4?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I would have preferred they keep it a secret.
I would have been okay with it
too.
until maybe season 2 or something. That would have been cool because then like season 3 was really her arc, so that'll be interesting to see. But whatever, it's fine. Anyway, yeah. So because of this, she's like, okay, I've got to like deter her. And then if you pretend that you don't know that Penelope is Lady Whistledown, technically what she's saying isn't incorrect. Eloise is going to see this young boy, working class, in not a great part of town, unchaperoned, which was considered very taboo at the time.
Oh, very much.
And so, yes, her reputation would be ruined if it were actually, found out that this was happening. And so she does have a little bit of an arc with this guy where something almost happens, but she also stops herself because, again, at the end of the day, the way that Antony was with Sienna, the opera singer in the first season, it's sort of that push-pull of like, yeah, but I can't because that we're not at the same place in what we can or cannot do with our lives, basically. And in Eloise's case, there's an extra level of complication because she's a woman.
Yeah, like Antony was able to have a full-on
physical... A full affair and nobody cared.
Yeah, nobody really cares. No. But for Eloise, like, I think she's I don't know if she's that worried about like her own reputation, but I think it's more for the rest
her
of the
families.
family.
Yeah. No, it's true because she's like her thing is always like my family is in ruins or this is this. It's true. I don't think it's not so much for herself.
I don't think she cares about getting married or whatnot.
No, I think you're right. I don't think she cares too much about herself in that way. But yes, for her family.
Yeah.
And she does have some back and forth because she says to her mom, she's like, I know I'm a disappointment to you, which I don't think is true. But Violet just doesn't know what to do with Eloise.
Yeah, because she's so different from herself and from all of her other children.
And from all of her other siblings and stuff. And she's so like outspoken and so not interested in going about things in the traditional sense that Violet just like is at a bit of a loss with her. It's not that she doesn't love her. It's not that she's disappointed by her. I don't think that's true at all. I think that she just doesn't know how to handle who she is as a person. Exactly. So she can't quite figure that out. So that's a whole major thing. What this leads to is the queen, still doing her research, because Eloise has been going to the print shop, she begins to suspect that Eloise is Lady Whistledown and is basically saying like, I'm going to ruin your fucking life if you don't just confess and tell me that that's the case. So Eloise goes into a full panic spiral, totally understandably. Right, yeah. And then unfortunately Penelope, in an effort to help, which I do understand why she did this, even though like, well,
hang on a second. Why can't I say that? Penelope is faced with the choice between outing herself, confessing, or doing something drastic, and she goes with the latter, which is...
I mean, look, I do... okay, so her reasoning for things that she says is that she's like, yes, but if I just go to the queen and confess, she'll think it's just...
to save my friend.
Yeah, that's it. Like me being a friend to Eloise. And I do kind of understand that, but I feel like you could probably prove it.
Yeah, like it's not hard to prove that it's you. You know,
and it's Madame Delacroix who recommends to her, she's like, well, if you wrote something disparaging about her and Lady Whistledown that she'd never write about herself, then obviously the queen will lay off that because she'll be able to know she'd never write anything that would do that.
Then in the same way, you could be like, yeah, I just wrote something disparaging about myself.
I know.
Like,
no, but I think she means from the perspective of like it kind of fucks with her whole family if there's something about her that comes out, which is correct. That is true. And they have enough scandal going on with Edwina running away at the altar from Antony. So there's a lot going on with that. So she does do that. So she doesn't name Theo or anything, but she writes an article about the fact that Eloise has been in a shitty part of town, going to rallies for like people who, I love that they call them political radicals. It's really people who are protesting for women's rights.
Yeah.
Is what it is. Those are all the conversations that are happening at these rallies and stuff. But it's working class folk. So, of course, it's seen as improper and not something that she should be doing and not people she should be associating with. So that causes like a bit of a smear.
Right.
On things, and that's kind of her way of fixing it. And because she's done this and she feels terrible about it, Penelope's like, she throws all her stuff away and she's like, I'm not doing this Lady Whistledown thing anymore. Like, I'm not doing it. We're done. But at the ball, at the end of the season, because of this, it's sort of like this has been her outlet for gossip and stuff over this last little while. So a couple of comments that she makes that are very astute lead Eloise to start being like, wait a minute. So she breaks into Penelope's room, goes through all of her stuff and finds all the copies. She finds the money that she's collected as Lady Whistledown. She squirreled away like a pretty nice fund for herself.
Money,
which, like, good for her. I'd move out anyway.
But you can't.
No, you can't. I know, because you're not married. Anyway, so, and then there's a confrontation that happens between them, which is it's a really sad, it's a really sort of upsetting breakup of their friendship.
Yeah.
And there are truths that are thrown out on both sides of things,
where like things that you can't take back.
No, said. Where Eloise is saying she's just like, you just like all you can do, like you're not being honest about anything because you just like you're the wallflower, you're just like up against the wall and everything, but then you're like spreading these like malicious gossip and blah blah blah, and you did this and you did that and all of those things. And then Penelope's thing back to her is just like, you know what, you've loved Lady Whistledown like most of this fucking time. time, and this is just, you're pissed now because I've done something and you haven't, and you can't stand that.
Yeah.
It's really upsetting. Like, it's a really realistic fight.
Yeah.
And what they're both saying is technically partially true.
Well, it's one of those fights that ends a friendship, right?
Oh, and it did.
Yeah.
And what she says, she's like, I don't want to see you or speak to you ever again. Yeah. So there's a breakup of their friendship. There's also, and so, okay, I think maybe she wouldn't have continued this necessarily, but Penelope goes, there are fireworks outside because Lady Featherington's hosting a ball at her house.
Oh, yeah.
And when everyone's outside for the fireworks, Penelope goes outside, and she overhears Colin, who she's been in love with for years now, speaking to his friends. He was dancing with her at the ball, but they're friends. Overhears him speaking to people, and when they're like, and he's, one of the guys is like, oh, what are you courting Penelope Featherington? He's like, and he's basically like, ew, no, I would never do that. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that he's just doing it because he's with his dude friends, and also because for him, he's like, no, Pen's my friend. But she obviously overhears this, and she's fucking devastated by it, which I don't blame her for, which I have to say, like, I'm really interested to see this new season.
How he's going to salvage this.
Because honestly, and even like with the first season, and there are a couple of things that happened with Colin in this season, he goes to visit Marina.
Oh, yeah,
at the Crane residence, and he has
like, go away.
And she really shoots him down, which I appreciate, because
I appreciate
his stupid bullshit of like, oh, you're not happy here and blah blah blah. And she's like, I'm not living in the past. I have accepted what my reality is now. You need to do the same, and you need to leave me alone.
Yeah,
because all that stuff, very immature. Not cool at all. And so like that last season, I will say, like, in the first season didn't bother me that much. In the second season, I was like, really? The third season's about Colin and Penn? I don't like TV show Colin very much. I'm not gonna lie. Bit of a shithead. Yeah. So I'm really interested to see what they're doing. I'm gonna be curious to see what they do with him in the third season.
So what are your predictions, Megan?
Oof. Okay. Predictions are going to, well, okay, so based on what we've seen so far and where things are headed, I'm pretty sure that what this is heading into with this season is it's going to be that trope of like, oh, I'm going to help you find a husband, and it's going to be like sexy lessons, like show me what you can do already kind of thing, but it's going to get a little bit heated. So I'm pretty sure that that's going to happen a lot. There's going to be and I need it. I require many, many scenes where Colin is jealous.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I'm so glad that we've seen that there's another suitor that's shown up.
He deserves after that last scene.
Yeah, he does. No, he deserves to feel like a shit.
Yeah.
I hope that he is insanely jealous and it really bothers him. Yeah. And I hope that she ignores him for a very long time.
Yeah, like, it's going to be like last episode of the season they finally
It better be. It better be.
Yep, definitely.
That'll be really good. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of the other siblings this season. I'm really looking forward to more Francesca.
Yeah, I can't wait to see. I'm sure she's going to be named the Diamond of the Season.
Probably. And I think that she's going to feel a pretty hefty responsibility after having had an older sister who's had the same
Daphne.
title. Yeah. Because I think that, because Francesca's a little bit more similar to Daphne.
She is, yeah.
So I think that she's going to feel more of that responsibility to, like, keep up the family name.
I wonder if Francesca is not going to end up with somebody, like, of nobility or something, or if that's
I wonder if that's how they're going to go. Well, I have the answers to that, but yeah.
I don't want to hear it.
But it'll be interesting to see how they do kind of develop stuff that way. But I'm really curious to see sort of what her arc is in the new season, if we're going to get to see more of what she's dealing with.
I'm curious to see if there's a love or like a some sort of I don't know, relationship for Violet, because she was mentioning it in Queen Charlotte.
I think I might have seen something in the trailer, maybe.
Like a brief
glimpse. Like a little...
Yeah.
Like a little smidgen. Something. I hope so.
I hope
so for her. I think she deserves to be able to be happy.
Yeah.
In this, like, sort of second half of her life, basically.
I think we're going to get glimpses of Anthony and Daphne.
Yeah, we're just going to see Anthony. I know Daphne's not in this season, because Phoebe did never confirm that she wasn't going to be in this season, which is fine. That's fair.
They'll just talk about her.
But Anthony and Kate are in it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get more of them, which will be nice, because I'd really like to see, since Simon didn't come back in the second season, we didn't get to see them like together very much.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see like this relationship, how it's like flourishing and developing and things now that they've been married for a while and stuff, like, and like how that's going. That'll be nice to see for sure.
For sure. And I wonder what's gonna happen with Eloise.
Yeah, her and Penn and their relationship, I believe that I'm pretty sure that for most of the season, she's going to be warning Colin away from Penn,
definitely.
but without really specifying why.
Yep.
And I don't know if she will spill the beans about Lady Whistledown to him or not, or if he will find out
at the end of the season, like if she sees things,
or if he'll find out in some way
Yeah.
on his own, or if Penn will tell him, or whatever the situation might be. I'm wondering kind of what's going to happen with that. That'll be interesting to see. And I mean, the other siblings as well. I mean, it'll be nice to see Gregory and Hyacinth getting a little bit older because it'll change their characteristics a little bit, which will probably start to make a difference for them.
We might get a bit more Benedict in this
I
season.
want more Benedict.
Yeah,
I love him so much. Okay, when there's an evening when everyone's trying to woo Edwina, where they do like a poetry reading, it's very funny. And Anthony, curmudgeon that he is, has no idea what poetry is really about, and he goes to see Benedict at the art academy that he's attending, and he asks him, like, you know, he's just there and he's like, I don't know, like, should I recite this? Should I do this? Should I do that kind of thing? And Benedict has this little speech about what poetry is and how it's like an expression of love and your feelings and everything. And I was like,
you're like that with Benedict. You're like, oh my God.
I'm like, oh, it's getting hot in here. I love a passionate romantic.
So funny.
He's so sweet. Okay, and then his thing where he like takes way too many of those like drugs. That
oh my God, that is so funny. That whole episode is hilarious.
When he spills his wine glass and is like, oops.
I know, they're like completely off their faces at dinner. It's so funny.
It's so good. No, he's hilarious. And I know, I get it. Like, I understand that we've like skipped his book for now, because technically he would have been the next one in line if you followed the books. They've skipped him for now, so I don't know if we'll get his maybe in another season or two, or not at all. God, I have no idea what they're going to do with the show. We have no idea where it's going.
Who knows?
Yeah, we won't know until they announce it.
Yeah.
But I am curious to see, like, that's it. We'll see. I think we'll be able to tell if we get a lot more development with him. Quite possibly that next season would be his, potentially, if that's the case. So nice. I'd be curious to see, like, if that's where it's going to go. I enjoyed his book overall when I read it, so it was sweet. His.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it.
Okay. But yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see, that's it, like Francesca and like her development of character, because her book is very particular in the sequence of events that takes place. And in an earlier season, something could kick off, even if it's not her season specifically. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense, but it is possible. Well, based on what I'm aware of, something could kick off earlier than even her specifically focused season. So that could be interesting to see also if they're going to maybe head in that direction. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to see where that goes. And yeah, and honestly, I hope we're going to get more of the Queen and the King. Really.
Oh, I just love their love story.
Yeah, they're just really sweet.
Queen Charlotte was my favorite.
And
season.
I really, the older actor who plays the King, like, present kind of thing, he's really good. Yeah. It's really difficult to play a character, I think, whose mind is going like that, who doesn't like have their faculties about them on a regular basis and things like that. That must be like a difficult thing to do. He does a really good job.
Yeah. I just feel so sad for Queen Charlotte. Like, she loves her husband, and you know. Yeah.
I'm curious to see, like, sort of what other development post Queen Charlotte. I'm curious to see what other development we get for her, for Lady Danbury, and for Violet, because they were a big focus of Queen Charlotte, because all of them, of course, none of the kids were around at that time that story takes place, but all of them were
like into the
exactly. So we get to see we get to see all of them sort of in the way that we see them, but also their younger versions as well. So I'd be curious to see if we're going to get some of that.
I'd be curious if we're going to hear more about any of her other children having kids, because that was her whole thing in Queen Charlotte, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you know what? Now that they've at least got one, maybe someone else is going to pop out a baby or two, and she'll be like, "Oh, good, okay."
Yeah,
she was so determined.
Sorrows,
Chris. I'm going to start saying that to people when they're really upset and I don't know how to deal with it.
No, me neither. I'm like, oh, not so good at the crying. I can offer you a sarcastic comment.
Thanks, Chandler.
That's really, I really resonate with that.
Yeah, no, it's fair. Yeah, so I mean, like, the banter is so good. The chemistry between the two of them is really good. So I can't help it. Like, so far, I've really, really enjoyed the second season. I thought that they did a really great job with it. All of us who love an enemies to lovers arc, we got it in spades, which I really appreciate. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with this one. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that there are at least a few times where Penelope puts Colin in his place. Thank you very much. He deserves to be read to filth. So
Totally.
yeah. But what did you guys think of the second season of Bridgerton? Did you like it better than the first season? Did you not like it better than the first season? I'm sure that people have mixed opinions on that because the spice doesn't happen till later in the season. So I'm sure for some people that made a difference.
Snoopy.
Yeah, Snoopy. You can let us know about that over on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at fullybookedca, or you can also check out our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/book was way better. But until next week, guys, keep on reading.
Thanks, everyone.